Yo, GamerNemy here, and today I talk about my boy Steve and his newly added Lionheart to Tekken 7. His new Lionheart stance has been a hot topic of discussion amongst Steve mains. I have seen so many comments talking about how this stance is trash, and I felt as a Steve main, you guys know this is my boy, I have to address this issue. Now, I'm not saying the stance is great, but it's not trash either. It's somewhere in between being okay or kind of meh, right? And we're going to talk about it. So Steve has two to three big issues with Lionheart stance. Firstly, certain moves will force you into this stance and you don't have the choice to cancel, right? You're forced into going into this stance, which is not really great. It's not ideal. Let's get our CPU to block here. So for example, up back to, right? His new added homing move, newly added to Tekken 8. So this is a homing move high that you can cancel or decide to go into Lionheart if you want to, right? So you're given that flexibility. Do you want to go into Lionheart or do you want to stay in neutral? Now, this is awesome. It's really, really awesome. Opens up so many possibilities. But now, there are certain moves that force you into this stance without a choice. You can't cancel these moves to not go into Lionheart, which sucks hard. Now, I don't know why they did this, right? Because maybe they don't want our boy to be too oppressive, too aggressive. I don't understand. Like being, like, we all know Steve is a counter heavy character with good keep out. So maybe they don't want him to be oppressive and defensive at the same time. I just really don't understand. But honestly, we should be given that option to not go into stance, right? So back 1-2, force into stance. Sway 3-1-2, force into stance. Outstanding 2-2, force into stance. Forward 2-2, force into stance, right? Just a few of these moves. So that's one of the biggest issues that Steve has concerning Lionheart. It would be awesome if we had the flexibility to not go into stance. The second biggest problem with Lionheart stance is the fact that even on plus frames into Lionheart, every follow-up that Steve has from this stance loses to power crush, right? So if your opponent decides to throw any power crush from this stance, all your options will lose. So for example, I think I already have him recorded, right? Yeah, so this is back 1-2 into Lionheart 1. So Lionheart 1 is his fastest mid from this stance, I believe at 14 frames. So this leaves me at -7, right? So if I do power crush, this is Steve's slow power crush, right? So I don't really get this, but just to show you guys an example, even as slow as power crush will beat Steve's fastest option from Lionheart at +7, which sucks. To show you how serious this is, let's do a quick switch here. Let's get, who has a really good power crush mid? Okay, let's say Dragonov, right? Thank Namco for fast reload. Yo, fast load, right? Look how fast we just switch characters immediately. Like, screw Tekken 7, bro. The load times on that game was actually cancer, bro. It took forever. Alright, so back 1-2 into 1. Boom, record this. Record those movement. Yes, so Dragonov's 1+2 is a 21 frame mid power crush, right? So, see? So Steve loses, right? And the reason why I'm showing you guys this is, as you can see, this is not actually a punish, right? And the thing about power crush is, if you didn't know in Tekken 7, if a power crush is absorbed, but it's still blocked, it becomes safe. So for example, this is Steve, down forward 1, down forward 1, right? So, dude, can you block? When we down forward into jab, maybe is more down forward 1 jab. Okay. Yes. Okay. Play. Dude, why isn't it blocking? Nani? This might be a bug. Should be a bug, right? Okay. Record this movement. Yes. I don't know. He's not blocking. I don't know why he's not blocking. But anyway, guys, so if you didn't know, if a power crush is absorbed, right? So let's say you jab Dragonov out of this power crush, but you still manage to block that power crush, the power crush becomes safe. So if Steve does back 1-2 or goes into Lionheart at +7, right, absorbs a power crush, but the power crush is blocked, you still can't get a punish from that power crush. So it just gives so much priority to use power crush when Steve is in this stance, like for no particular reason. So that's the second thing that makes this stance really, really bad. Okay, let's switch back to Steve real quick. Sorry for that, guys. That quite didn't go as planned, honestly. I don't understand why that happens a lot in practice mode. It's kind of like a bug that needs to be fixed. So now, does this make Lionheart stance really, really bad and not viable? Because at the end of the day, even if you're +7, right, it's not a guaranteed mix-up. Because as we all know, Steve is quite scary in his stance because he has an unblockable high, you know, a mid that launches as well. So technically, on paper, it's a scary ass stance. But the fact that everything loses to power crush makes it very, very questionable. So now, this is where the other side of the coin comes into play. The other side of things where I'm looking at this stance and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this stance was not intended to be kind of a 50-50 stance, right? It's low-key kind of like a mental frame kind of mix-up stance. Now, this will make sense when I talk about it. All right, so let's talk about Lionheart stance on block, right? Because on block, most of your moves go into Lionheart stance at +3. So up back 2 goes at +3, back 1-2 +3, right? Sway 1-2 on block, of course, is +3. So now, when he is in +3, of course, he can't force a mix-up because his fastest move is his mid, which is 14 frames. So this can be jab interrupted, right? So now this is where the mind games come into play, right? Because when Steve goes into Lionheart at +3 on block, you have the option, first of all, to cancel, right? So forward 3, Wildman cancel. You can cancel this, Lionheart into cancel. Now, this cancel, we will lose to 13 frame mids, right? So like a down forward 1, for example. The timing is very, very strict. I don't know if I can show you guys this, but I will try. So, okay, there we go. So record this movement, yes. Play. Yeah, so like that, you lose to a down forward 1. But anything other than that, as you can see, I'm blocking, right? I'm blocking this. Now this applies on hit as well. If you know your opponent is going to throw out a power crush, right, you can cancel your your Lionheart, bait them to use the power crush, then punish them afterwards, right? So you guys see why I say this stance is kind of like a mental frame kind of mix-up situation thing, right? So it's quite viable because of this, due to the fact that you can also keep your pressure going, which is insane, right? You can kind of do this, right? If you know they're not going to throw out the power crush, right, you can go low from, Wildman. If you want, you can add sways. And sways are actually a very, very good option in Lionheart to beat the power crush, because sway beats every option, maybe except like a quick homing move, like a Fang back 4. So for example, let's record him to do back 1, Lionheart into sway, right? This is a deep sway. I'm holding the 4. So record this movement. So you guys will see this, right? Power crush whiff. So it will beat every option except, okay, this is kind of inconsistent because sometimes it will lose to down forward 1s or 13 frame mids depending on how deep you do his sway, right? So this sway, if you tap it, most of the times you will get clipped by down forward 1. But if you hold it, like I've done with this recording, it will beat a down forward 1. So you guys see where the mind games are, right? If your opponent is spamming power crush after this, bait them with a sway, bait them with a Wildman cancel after Lionheart, and just mix them up. This is where the mind game comes into play. Because if you get a sway, you can get a free 2, right? You can get a free shoulder, right? Shoulder back into Lionheart, right? Continue the same mental frame mix-up situation, because like I'm telling you guys, it's pretty insane, right? Boom, better power crush, go back into Lionheart. Oh, you're going to respect me now? Boom, guard break, right? Oh, you're going to respect me now? Boom, mid into hit. You're not going to respect me? Okay, I'm going to cancel, bet your power crush, punish, right? So this is how it works. It even beats lows, by the way, the sway, right? It beats lows as well, even quick lows. Let me actually get Feng and show you guys. So Feng has a quick down 4, I think down 3 plus 4, the generic, down 4. So let's record Steve to Lionheart into sway again. So boom boom into sway. Okay, nice. Record this on block. See that? It's beating lows as well, right? Down forward one loses. Even his shoulder, this will whiff, right? Power crush will whiff. Hop kick will whiff. Down 2, right? Maybe down back 3 will track, because even down back 3 whiffs, right? So now this all goes back into the aspect of sidestep being buffed in the game. Something I've noticed is Steve's sway is way more evasive in Tekken 8 than it's ever been, which is pretty ridiculous. As you can see, guys, it's even swaying things down 4. Down 4 is a 12 frame low, which is very ridiculous, right? So like I said, guys, it's kind of like a mix-up potential. It has mix-up potential to this, a mind game potential. Quite all right, you don't get guaranteed 50-50, right? But it's not as bad as everyone's making it seem to be. Everyone is saying it's trash because it loses to power crush. You can bait your opponent to throw out a power crush. You can bait your opponent and punish them, right? That's how this stance is supposed to be used, at least from what I've discovered so far. Now, verdict is still out there. It's only under a month. Tekken 8 is very, very new, so I might be wrong. But honestly, from my experience, and I will upload some matches of Steve, like this stance is ridiculous, right? And the fact that you can even cancel into a mid, right? And this is a counter hit launcher, by the way, right? So if you want, if they've noticed that, okay, this stance is kind of, tricky and mix-up heavy, they start ducking the back 1-2, cancel it, safe mid, counter hit launcher, right? So honestly, I don't get why everyone has been shitting on this stance. Guys, it's not as bad as it seems to be. Steve is very, very misunderstood in this game, and man, I'll be dropping so many videos talking about his hit as well, because his hit is pretty scary. It's pretty scary, and I'll talk about it later. But anyway, guys, this is what I wanted to touch on about Steve's hit. Now, sorry, Steve's Lionheart. Now, are there any changes I would want for this stance? Yes, for sure, yes. They could buff this stance, honestly. But like I said, maybe this is what they intended the stance. This is how they intended the stance to be used. They don't want it to be a pure 50-50 stance. But like, if there's a buff I would want for this stance, it's 1, give him a low. That would be a good counter to power crush. A quick low, maybe a quick low check or a grab, right? Let him grab from this stance, like Jack after Gamma How, right? His new flex stance, he has a grab from that. So if they could give Steve a grab from this, then that would be a good option to counter power crushes. But overall, guys, trust me, this stance is not as bad as you make it seem. Just take some time to go into practice mode and mess around with the character. Now, I haven't even seen Hera use this stance like this. Honestly, the only person I've seen do this is JDCR's Steve, right? Like, honestly, this man is swaying for his life, right? After back 1-2, he sways. Up back 2, he sways. To beat jabs, to beat power, like I said. So just take the time to understand the character. He's still very early, so Steve is heavily misunderstood. So anyway, guys, this is what I wanted to talk about. Lionheart is a good stance. Just take the time to learn it and understand the stance. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching my video. If you made it this far, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. We love Steve around this your part. So if you're Steve main, drop that subscribe button. So anyway, guys, GG, and may the frame data be ever in your favor.